What's going on, everyone? Today I'm joined by Ant Woods, a three-time Olympian and professional mindset coach. Ant, pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
In the studio, we're in Los Angeles. We've got power tech machines, free weights, cables, bodyweight stuff. We're gonna have a great back and a bicep workout. And I've got a bunch of questions to ask you as well about performance, coaching, discipline, all of the stuff that you work with on your clients. How's that sound?
Sounds amazing. Rob, I want to thank you for inviting me in. I've been in the game for some time, but you've been in the game even longer than me. So I'm honored to be here. I'm ready to roll.
All right, let's get on with it. First exercise, let's get some lat pull-downs going. Let's get some weight on, warm up, and get into it. Let you go ahead first, Ant.
All right. It's one of my favorite machines from Power Tech, by the way. Here we go.
Yeah, we got that low cable pulley as well, so later on in the workout, we can get either some one-arm rows or a seated row down there too. So let's talk about training. How long have you been training?
I'm turning 38 this year in May. Started training when I was 12. I'm bad at math, but it's about...
Wait. What? 12?
12. I used to sneak in these gyms. I was too young to have a membership. So I would sneak in the gym or wait towards the exit, that exit when everyone leaves, and hope to slide in when someone would exit that little crack when you can get in real fast. And that was my introduction to the gym. Trying to get in before I could have a membership and just trying to buy some time, get in the gym when I could.
What was the attraction for you?
So, to be completely honest with you, Rob, I'm a nerd. I've always been a comic book nerd, and I understood really early that a lot of the bodybuilders that I admired looked like my favorite comic book characters.
The passion, I think, starts from a young age.
Yeah.
And you know, we're talking pre-social media, like magazines,
right.
TV shows, movies.
Right.
For me, it was probably Rocky IV.
Yeah, classic movie.
And seeing You Know Who.
Yeah.
And it was just, I was like, I wanted to look like him. It's more than just going into the gym and lifting weights. You've got to understand the full body, the mental aspect of it. And from the ages of 14 through to 21 was just this expansion of growth. I was like a sponge, soaking up as much as I could, to the point where I was asking questions to these bodybuilders in the gym that didn't know the answers. And I was thinking, So I would then find out what the answer was. And I think that's what helped get this sort of early head start, just this hunger for knowledge. And when someone couldn't answer it, I would then go and discover it myself. I'm always interested to see where people put their hands, you know, whether they wrap their thumbs around. I do something similar to you. I just have my fingers wrapped around and the thumbs are kind of pressed up on the bar. Is that something you do naturally, or you kind of have to, you think about your grip?
You know, it makes me, it gives me some
stability,
yeah.
I love the cadence that you got on here.
Oh,
slow, controlled, you get that peak contraction. I think that's a lot of the fundamentals of, you know, when we talk about bodybuilding, we're not just referring to the guys on stage, we're talking about developing and growing and changing your body. And to do that, you know, there's some sort of fundamental truths.
Agreed.
What do you think some of those are?
Oh, man. First and foremost, consistency, right? Even if you have the best plan, the best gym, if you're not going consistently and using what you have at your disposal consistently, you're kind of spinning your wheels. So first and foremost, nice set. First and foremost, I would say discipline is something that you gotta be able to cultivate. Not all of us have it naturally, but we build it kind of like a snowball rolling downhill. The more it rolls, this guy's incredible. The more it rolls, the bigger it gets, the easier it is to continue to roll. And once you're a disciplined person, I feel like you're free. You're released from your pleasures, you're released from the things that kind of hold you back, and you're able to do what needs to be done, when it needs to be done, regardless of how you feel about it.
I'm good with that weight. You can probably go a little heavier than me, but I want to keep it at that sort of 80% of my max.
I think I'm staying right there. The way this machine is set up, how it's, the tension, the smoothness, even with moderate weight, it still feels as if it's relatively heavy.
I mean, look, the thing I love about this machine, we've got the option for the weight stack, which I haven't got on here. It's a 190-pound weight stack, so it's a pin selector. But you got the weight horns for free weights. What do we got here? We got a 55, 110 plus, we're looking at, we're about 180 pounds here. Just on free weights on there.
I love this machine.
How tall are you, Ant?
I'm about 6'2".
You got pretty good range of motion on here too, I mean.
All the way up to.
Yeah, you get a full length of the arm.
Which is really important for me when I'm training my back.
That full range of motion.
Absolutely.
Stretch out the lats. Why is that? I mean, I know I have my idea of the answer, but for somebody who's obviously got longer limbs and taller than me, I'm interested to know your thoughts on the importance of range of motion.
So the analogy, or the way that I like to perceive it in my head, is training the muscle completely. So I like to use my bicep as an example. It's usually really easy to access and see. And so I want to train my bicep from the top to the bottom. So I want to elongate the muscle, but I also want to shorten the muscle too. If I'm only elongating to here, I'm not training the muscle entirely. So efficiently and efficiency is important when training any muscle, especially the back. You want to stretch it and you want to contract it from top to bottom, from A to Z.
Love that. What about variations? You ever switch up the type of bar, the actual hand position? I really love the underhand grip, especially early on.
Yeah.
Hits the biceps, works perhaps more the inner region of the back, although I think it's not quite as black and white as that.
Sure. I think variations are extremely important, especially when doing what we do, bodybuilding, or constructing something. And kind of going back to how I started, I didn't know much. I was so young. So what I would do is I would sneak in the gym if I was successful enough to get in there, and I would observe. And I would observe all different techniques, from underhand to pronated to wide to neutral. And because I was ignorant and didn't know much, I did it all. I tried every single thing. And so I found that supinated underhand is extremely good for the bicep, really good for bringing the elbows all the way down and really getting that squeeze for the lat, just as this guy's doing. Incredible.
One more set, move on.
Absolutely, you got it.
Let's get it, Ant. A few more reps. Find that point of failure. Come on, one more. Let's go. Let's push it. There you go.
I did that push. Appreciate you.
Rep ranges, fixed limits. Are you pretty fluid with that, or do you kind of do it by the book in terms of, your numbers are, you hit that 10th or 12th rep and you stop there?
I haven't been asked that question in some time. So now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of go instinctively. I've been training for some time now,
Right.
I kind of know what I have in the tank. And I do my best to push the limit a little bit, not too far, but enough to be moving the needle forward every day.
And kind of figuring out what works best for us.
Yep.
Which also means cheating the rep a little bit, maybe
Sure.
we're swaying back and forth, which I think is warranted if we're doing that much weight. Kind of gradually build up, stay strict, get to a point where it's really challenging our muscles. We're going to break our form a little bit, but not to the point where I think it's going to impede the muscle activation and the benefit of training like that.
Agreed.
Okay, let's get a spot on this one. Let's get to that point of failure.
Last set, best set. Easy money, Rob. There we go. Strong. Perfect. Nice. Here we go. Let's work now. Nice, Rob. Nice, Rob. All you. Perfect. Strong. Beautiful job, Rob.
All right, I'm feeling pumped already.
This is the machine. If you're looking to grow your lats, stimulate your back, have some variations in how you load the weight and what weight to use, or the machine.
I want to come back to this lat machine because we got the lower cable and we got some foot plates here. Put a little seat down, we get some really nice low cable rows on there.
Here we go.
But first, we've kind of got a good cable. Typically I do a lot of free weight stuff, but we've got some great machines in here. What if we do a one arm lever row, really isolate the back? We can do a couple of seated cable rows after, maybe one other one, and then move on to our biceps.
Sounds like a party.
All right, and I want you to give this a try first.
Sweet.
Knee on there, left arm support, and that way you get that great sweep in that lat. Man, are you competing soon? Your conditioning is just like, you look like you're a week out.
I think I'm done.
Really?
I think I'm done, yeah.
All right, well, more on that later. I've got some questions to ask you.
Let's see. This is good.
And what's great about this separation, if I can just move that, you can see the full lat there working. But in the rhomboids, the traps as well. That's what fascinates me too, just the physiology of our bodies. How everything comes together, how it's connected, how it works, how it's all synergistically, as one.
It's all connected.
Many different parts, but they ultimately, it works together as one.
Right.
And if one part is broken or not quite as efficient as the others, you start to see a breakdown.
100%.
Within the whole body.
Yeah. One of the things I like the most about fixed range of motion is the fact that you can repeatedly stimulate the same muscle group and kind of contract in the same exact place over and over and over again. And be really, really precise and effective with that contraction. It's really cool.
It's great for beginners, especially because I think it takes them through the path without them having to think or, am I doing it right? It's just start, end. You don't have to worry or stabilize any of the other movement. Free weights are great. I love them. They're probably my favorite types of exercise, which I start on because you want to get the heaviest compound type, the most effort used early on in the workout. But then you can't really continue that peak of effort, or rather load.
Right.
Effort needs to be high. You don't want to take your foot off the gas,
right.
But you can't always lift heavy because your muscles start to fatigue and tire, and they've only got so much energy. It's like driving a car at full speed up a hill.
Right.
You might start off fast, but at a certain point, you got to kind of slow down a little bit, and I think that's what we're doing within this workout is shifting the emphasis so that we can still keep the stress on the muscle high, but we're going to find different ways to continue to stress the muscle without simply just overloading it with the heaviest weight.
Right. And then one of the biggest risks when we do overload the weight unnecessarily is we diminish the quality of the rep. And so as he's stimulating his lat, if his rep wasn't as strict and as precise, this machine allows that to take place. But if it wasn't the case, he'd be stimulating all different kinds of muscles. He'd be swaying, using momentum. It'd be a less quality repetition. And so using machines where you can repeat the same motion over and over is a great benefit to that.
You said something that kind of my ears perked up to, quality of movement. And I think machines really do allow that best. Cables too, to a degree, and we'll have a look at that maybe next. But free weights require the most conscious effort. Right, because if you're doing a barbell row, we've really got to stabilize. We've got to use the other muscles to facilitate that movement, and our technique, our form needs to be on point, and to get that conscious muscle contraction. Whereas a machine, I think it's already done for you. The movement's already there. All you need to do is think about engaging, contracting that muscle.
As you're talking to me about engagement, the word that pops in my brain is recruitment. And so when you're doing an exercise like this and you want to be strict and stimulate a particular part of the muscle, you want to be cognizant and mindful of the muscles that you're recruiting or trying not to recruit while stimulating a muscle or performing an exercise. So he's not trying to stimulate his glutes, he's not trying to stimulate his abs, he's not trying to stimulate his chest, he's attempting to stimulate and contract his back. And so we want to be careful not to recruit any other muscle group to that party.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm going to take that one step further. Jump on.
You got it.
Touch training, which you should only do with your training partner or better half, and make sure that they're aware of it. But if I come over here, if I just put my fingers on your back and right about here, which is typically where Wouldn't you say most women would have a kind of a bra strap around that center part of their back?
I'd agree.
Right there, if I put my fingers, you can feel that contraction right as you come up and squeeze. Touch training for me just allows you to really lock in on the muscle that you're working, and especially that peak contraction at the top of the rep. I mean, the whole back there I can see coming up and contracting. It's a great quality of movement there.
As you're touching my back, I could feel where you're touching, but it helps me contract, I would say about 15% more efficiently.
I was doing a lot of that with my ab training. So if I was doing, unilateral work, my hand would be on my abs, and I'd feel just slight nuances if I was to bring my elbow here or out here, and if I was to come up, if I was to exhale at a certain point, I'd feel where I'd get the best contraction. So it's obviously harder to do on certain movements where our hands are engaged with the exercise. But again, you've got a training partner, someone you trust, you're close to. Just having them, put their hand on the muscle that you should be working, it allows you, I think, to really lock in and get that conscious connection. And even just placing the hand on top of the back there.
Yeah, super helpful.
We talk about performance and mindful coaching. Elaborate a little bit more.
Sure.
For somebody who doesn't know much about that, maybe they've had a year or two of training under their belt. What would you say is perhaps the biggest benefit that working with a coach such as yourself could offer someone?
Absolutely. So, in my time in the industry, working with many people from all different walks of life, what I've noticed is, regardless of what their physical goals may appear to be, usually there's something psychologically that's going on. And that's usually the motor. That's usually the why. And that's where I come in. I help to stimulate that. I help to extract that. If there's any unhealthy dialogue, any stories you're telling yourself that aren't true or aren't helping to propel you in the direction you want to go, someone like me comes in. I help you rethink or even relearn or unlearn the ways that you're speaking to yourself or ways you're perceiving yourself. So in most cases and in most ways, you can kind of get out of your own way and see exactly where you want to go. Because truthfully, Rob, most of us are the only thing holding us back from where we really want to go.
I'm often in danger of overthinking, and that can put you in a place where it's like the wheels are just spinning.
Same.
I love that analogy. I want to show a different variation of this, because one of the things I think is great about the lever gym is just how many different options and setups that you can have. It's so versatile. Let me grab a bar real quick that we can connect. Now, it's a squat bar used for obviously squatting or lunging. Now, underhand, overhand. Again, fixed range of motion.
Wow.
A little bit of a higher peak up there. So you hit more of the rhomboids and traps, I feel. Again, driving back with those elbows to just really maximize that.
I'm excited to
engagement.
try this. This is one of my favorite exercises of all time. Were you pronated or supinated, Rob?
Pronated, I was on that. Again, we're talking about a fixed range of motion. It's a different step up, Kind of feel it more in the upper region of the back.
I like that a lot. That's great. Holy smokes.
Throw a few of these in.
One of my favorite exercises for stimulating the lower back, especially this Christmas tree region here, is the bend over row. And in my personal back routine, it's a staple in my exercises. So to be able to replicate this motion in a machine like this, that I can potentially have at home, that might be Christmas every single morning, honestly. Nice work, Rob.
Yeah, and just look at the blueprint, the footprint of this machine. I mean, it's the size of a small bed, Put it in the corner of a spare room or in the garage. I got one of these in the garage, and what's great, I can push it up against the wall, still park the car, and in the mornings I've got like 60 plus exercises that I can do right at home. One other thing I want to do on this before we move on. We've got a Lat Pulldowns station. which obviously we can lock the bench in and support our knees much like we did with the first machine. But seeing as though we're talking about variation, adaptation, modification, something I want to try. You ever done a lat pull down away from the machine on a bench, leant forwards more?
No.
Okay.
No, I have not. I'm down to try. Let's do it.
So we add an extension cable onto this. Such a big muscle group in the first two movements that now we can become a little bit more focused on areas of the body that we wouldn't necessarily train unless we become more specialized.
See.
So tilt forwards, shift the hips back. There you go. Head up a little bit and then pull that down towards the top of your chest. What I like as well is because we're not completely sort of under the bar and putting it vertically down, we kind of got that increased tension because you're having to remain tilted forwards. So you get the rear deltoids coming into play a lot more, which we can easily see here. Great form there, Ant.
Thanks, Rob.
What I loved when I was coaching more is I'd put my hands right on the elbows there and I'd say, push down where my hands are. Because that emphasis of driving the elbows back allows you to kind of take your mind off of the back being worked and lock in on that type of movement, which will really focus that contraction on the back.
That was really helpful.
And look at this. We've got 50, okay, we've got about 100 pounds there. We had 180 pounds on that one. So it goes to show that we want to start heavy when we're at our freshest, utilize the most muscular energy in those big movements, and then throughout that second, third, fourth exercise, different exercise setup, we're still using the intensity, but we've lowered the weight and we've just changed the sort of the emphasis on how we're training the muscle.
See.
Yeah, really good stretch too.
Great form. And it seems as though because you're controlling how far away you are from the machine yourself, you can control your range of motion.
Oh yeah,
and you can make sure you're getting that full stretch. This is almost like a one-size-fits-all exercise.
The thing I noticed when you were doing this is, and it really does highlight the benefit of doing T-bar rows or V-bar row, is when you think of doing a single arm row with a dumbbell, what would most people do? If they're bent over, they either bring their elbow out or they kind of bring their elbow up and follow the path here.
Right.
What you'll notice on here, and if our camera guy can come in and we'll see it from the side, is because it's got a fixed fulcrum or pivot at one end, it's got a fixed range of motion again. So as our elbows come up, what happens is our elbows come back like this, allowing us to really work the back in its entirety as opposed to trying to lift something like this.
Right.
How many times have yourself been in the gym, or maybe you've seen others in the gym, and they're doing an exercise that you just think like, they're not quite hitting it. Mm-hmm. This is an exercise that I think hits it like out the park. Even without too much weight on, we can feel the back working, and it's because it's working us through that very specific range of motion that allows us to fully engage, contract our back. Again, conscious training. Elbows are coming back slightly.
Nice.
And all of that work is on the back. I'm feeling it in my arms, but much less so than if I was doing it with a dumbbell. Mix it up, and again, our elbows don't really come out. We're pulling them back. Yeah.
What I noticed also when you're performing your set is because it's, again, the fixed range of motion, each repetition looks just like the previous one.
Right.
So
They're not deteriorating in quality
exactly.
over time.
Exactly. Quality all the way through. Let's see if I can do that.
All right, what are we doing? 10? Good 10 reps?
Let's do it.
I mean, you can really see the mid and lower region of the back being worked. I mean, right all the way down here. I mean, I'm sure you can feel that too. I can feel it with my thumb and index finger there. Man, you talk about that Christmas tree. This right here.
This is it.
I think one of the best exercises for that.
100%.
What are your thoughts on, the conventional types of deadlifts? Something you do?
I've never deadlifted.
Like never?
In my life. To be honest, Rob, anecdotal story. Every time throughout my life rather, someone offered to teach me to deadlift, they injured themselves in teaching me.
No.
Every time.
That's irony right there.
Yeah.
My thoughts are, unless you're training to be a strength and performance type athlete, a weightlifter, which is very different from a bodybuilder. Weightlifter is about hitting those numbers, whereas bodybuilding, and I still think of myself as a bodybuilder in terms of the mentality, we might scale back on the overall weight because our focus is on ultimately that muscular contraction. Weightlifting is just about kind of, not quite as black and white, but getting the weight up. Us, it's about repetition and working, conditioning that muscle, and improving upon it. All right, let's get one more set here.
Quality rep, there it is. Full range of motion, nice strong squeeze. Everything is smooth, everything is controlled, everything is efficient, everything is contracted. Nice job, Rob.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great work.
Talk about that pump.
There it is.
Those final 3, 4, 5 reps at the end.
Nice work.
Just repping them out, pumps the muscle. We're pulling the muscle with blood. And I think that's what few really grasp the concept. When we're talking about the pump, what we're really referring to is getting as much blood, maximizing the volume of blood within that muscle, which along comes nutrients,
There it is.
oxygen, fuel basically for that working muscle.
Right.
All right, let's see some slow negatives on there.
Here we go. There's nothing quite like engorging the target muscle.
You know what I think it is? I think because we're here putting on a bit of a show.
Oh yeah.
We've got the camera, we know people are watching.
Yeah.
So essentially I think what we're doing is we're scaling it back a little bit.
A little bit.
Leaving our egos at the door and really trying to focus on, what can I show this guy? What can I talk to about this guy that is relevant, is something new, instead of just seeing who's the strongest or, who can lift the most weight. I think that's key in getting, and it's probably a big part of what you do with your clients as well, is letting go of the I, that sort of egotistical voice in our head, which can be a great driving force at times. And let's face it, we will have times where we're looking in the mirror and kind of being like, I look good, or I need to work on a little bit more. But I think when it comes to training, that part of ourselves needs to be left, and we need to just exactly like what we're talking about and doing. Can you feel the muscle working? Let me think about that fixed range of motion. Let me think about, am I hitting my 10th, 11th, 12th rep as effectively as I'm starting on that? Let's finish off back. Let's do those seated cable rows.
Yeah.
I really like these sort of deep V-type handles simply because, when we do it with a straight bar, like something like this, we're going to row, and we typically stop here. So our range of motion is somewhat limited, even though we're getting a good contraction. But with this, and especially a little lighter load, we get to row it back, an extra 3, 4, 5 inches.
So you're saying we can kind of go further than the back and drive the elbows as far as you can.
Yep, extra 2
increasing
inches
the range
or so.
of motion. Mm-hmm. Got you.
And in doing so, we're going to drop the weight a little bit. Again, letting go of that ego training. And maybe we'll change the word ego for just, essentially what we're doing, I think, is maximizing the full potential of the muscle.
Absolutely.
We're keeping the stress as high as we can for those 10, 12, maybe 15 reps, but we've probably reduced it by 20, 30%, and in doing so, getting that much better. I keep referring back to conscious training and mind muscle. It's important that we're thinking about what we're doing, because those actions, as you know, within the work that you do, becomes very real.
Rob, one thing I always tell myself, anytime I catch myself getting a little heavy within my training, or even just routinely throughout the week during my training program, I ask myself, what am I training for? Or what am I attempting to stimulate? So if I'm getting too heavy and I'm recruiting muscle groups that aren't part of the muscle that I'm attempting to stimulate, then that lets me know I'm going too heavy. But it also keeps me, like Rob is saying, keeps me intentional with what I'm doing. So I'm training with my mind, knowing exactly where I'm trying to go.
Man, the words are powerful.
I appreciate
intent.
You, appreciate
intent. All right, let's put some intent behind this movement.
There's one thing I really like about Power Tech and the way that they design their equipment is one size definitely almost fits everyone. And you can alter, manipulate all types of different apparatuses and attachments to fit your body type, to fit your size, to fit your strength, even to fit your creativity if you're coming up with exercises that are a bit unconventional, which we do. Power Tech's got you covered.
Power Tech's got you covered. I'm gonna go all the way back there. So 45, we've got about 90 pounds. It's a ratio of 1-to-1 actually, so it's the equivalent of 90 pounds. We've got a ratio of 1-to-1, so it's literally 90 pounds that we're lifting. Not the heaviest weight, but yeah, look at that range of motion right there.
It is.
And it also means that we can keep our back completely vertical, because what do we often do when we're doing this?
Right.
Start to row back and forth, just looking at that weight going up and down.
Right.
In our mind, we're moving the weight, therefore we must be training the muscle. This is training the muscle.
There it is. Even in seeing you sway back and forth, I'm witnessing you recruit all these different ripped muscles, but sure, not the necessary muscles we're attempting to stimulate for this exercise. So Rob, you're killing it. Nice.
You know if it's one of those workouts that you're like, I train that muscle well.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's one of the beautiful things about training is you can't lie to yourself.
No, you cannot.
You
can cheat yourself, but
yeah.
You got to, that's the first starting place with really getting progress going. Mm-hmm. Man, I love that. You got to be true to yourself.
Have to. No one can lift it for you. You can't pawn the work off to someone else. You can't outsource it. You can't do anything other than do the work yourself. And that's, again, where mindset comes in, because you have to do it for yourself.
And just to add to that, the great thing about fitness is anybody can do it and achieve it. It doesn't matter about your wealth, really where you come from. Genetics play a part, obviously, but to go back to your earlier point, nobody can do it for you. If you've got the passion, if you've got the heart, if you've got the will, and you just have the basic equipment to do it, I mean, look at how we first started. Creeping into gyms and,
He sparked something that I have to touch on. If you're watching this and you're someone that's going through something at a really dark time or dark moment, you're unhappy, you're dealing with something traumatic, it's dark, it's gloomy, Rob said it, anyone can start, we all started somewhere, but the best time to start for the most time is in a place of unhappiness. Anytime I've made a shift in my life and something beautiful came from it, right before that shift, I was extremely uncomfortable and I made a move. I made a decision, I made some kind of change, and I blossomed. And so if you're watching this and you're feeling like you're in that place, the gym or exercise, it might be the place for you. It might be the thing for you. It might be the haven for you. Oh, that's perfect.
It's one of my favorite back movements here. I mean, back, you've kind of got a lat pull down or a chin up type movement. You've got a row or a lift type movement. And this is one of those, I think, one of the standards for a row. Even though we're using cable, but we're still keeping that stress on the muscle. Whether it's free weights, a lever-based machine, a cable.
Man.
To further elaborate on why we love the gym so much, I got a theory.
Yes, sir.
I think, for me at least, it's about true control. It's the control that you've got in the gym. Regardless of how much weight, if you walk into the gym and you go, okay, I'm gonna train back, or I'm just gonna do a workout, I just wanna lift some weights, I just wanna feel better in myself. You can look at a machine, look at a weight and go, I'm gonna move that 10 times. It might just be 5 pounds. It might not be enough weight to really transform your body, but to go into a gym and say, have it mapped out, have a book, have it on your phone, and just say, I'm gonna document what I do. However it turns out. Next time you go in, use that as your starting point and say, let me see if I can lift 5 pounds more. Let me see if I can do 2 reps more on this exercise. Weeks go by, at the very least, you're progressing in the gym because you've now got a model in which you're working from. And to a degree, it's up to you to fulfill that exercise, fulfill that training routine, and it becomes, for me, it was one of the most self-motivating kind of driving forces that then spilled out pretty much everywhere else in my life, relationships, work, my outlook on life. If I can do this in the gym, if I can have that self-control, that discipline, that mindset to project finishing that exercise, to visualize that weight being lifted. I remember Arnold saying that, the visualization of training. You can then use those tools in other areas of your life. You might not have the same kind of outcome, but you've got the same sort of mindset, I think.
Agreed, 100%.
I'm gonna add a little more weight on this. I like this movement.
Man.
Well, that's another 66 pounds. Let's push ourselves.
Let's push it.
Like so. What do you think about these weights too? These Olympic plates.
I like them. I've been meaning to ask you about these guys. They look cool.
Pretty smart, aren't they? All right, so 90, we've added, we've kind of added 70% more weight now.
A significant amount of weight. Nice, Rob. That range of motion. Smooth. Nice. Just in the way you're able to push yourself, it seriously resembles that of a commercial gym.
On this machine?
Yeah.
It makes me feel secure in the weight that I'm lifting. That's about it for me. I could maybe move heavier weight, but in terms of feeling it being worked, that's kind of up at the limit for me.
Can you elaborate a little bit as to why it's important to you to feel what's being worked as opposed to how much weight is on the bar in terms of what you do and what you find important for yourself?
That's a really good question. Let me think about that for a second.
Sure, I'm gonna lift this weight and have a party while you're thinking.
I would summarize it like this. The heaviest weight that you should be lifting is to the point where you are aware of that muscle. And when I say that muscle, the primary muscle being worked. To elaborate further, if we were to add more weight, could we move that bar? Could we take the weight up and down? Sure, I think we could. But we start to lose the focus, the emphasis on that muscle being trained. And so, I guess to shorten that answer, if you can't stay locked in on really consciously and mindfulnessly, if that's a word, being mindful about the muscle that you're training and stay locked in on that, which I'd say is maybe between 80, 85% of the heaviest weight that you can lift. Anything above that is you're overdoing it on the exercise. You're reducing the effectiveness of the peak contraction, getting the most out of that muscle.
That makes a lot of sense.
What are your thoughts on that?
I would have to agree. I feel like the heavier you get, I call it static. It's just the heavier you get.
I like that, yeah.
Get more static. I like for things to be clear.
All right, let's put that out there. For everyone watching, just for the next week, try going into the gym, scale back on the weights. Even if you've been keeping track of all the weights that you've been doing, take off 20%, 15, 20%, and slow down your tempo. Not to the point where you're doing like a 1, 2 and hold, but just enough where you're doing the exercise and you're going, am I really feeling that muscle working? Have your training partner do some touch training if they can. Lightly place the hand on that muscle. Are you feeling it? Can you feel it contract? See how you feel. Walk out at the end of that workout and go, do I feel like my muscles have worked harder, more intensely this way? Or do I like it when I'm just lifting as heavy as I can and walking out thinking like, well, I lifted heavy, so I must feel it. I bet we're gonna feel our back tomorrow, that DOMS, the delayed onset muscle soreness, probably a little bit more so than if we're just in a commercial gym, loading on the weights and just moving it as we would normally do.
100%. 100%. Everything we're doing is very, very precise, is very methodical, and we're efficient with every movement, the stretch and the contraction. I'm pretty sure this delayed onset pain is going to be very, very, very serious.
And you know what we're not doing here?
What's that? Oh, not at all. Not allowed. Excuse me, sir, how many sets do you have left?
Just started. I'll be a few.
That's not allowed. Ever.
What does that do? It
man.
takes us out of our mindset, our training zone. And look, I'm guilty of it.
Yeah, same.
But because we're not here, we're not on our phones, we got the camera in our face, we're locked in on training. And isn't it incredible what happens when we start to focus all of our efforts and energy on just training? And let me ask you this too. How are you feeling? Mentally, how are you feeling right now?
Focused, clear.
Yep,
Clear.
Same.
Yeah.
I'm not thinking about what's going on in my life, what I got to do after. I'm thinking about the exercise, moving the weight. I'm watching you go and thinking, man, I gotta step up my game for this next set. And I think that's what training, going back to maybe 10, 15 years ago, that's what training was for me.
Absolutely.
We've become lost a little bit in today's society, today's fast-paced scrolling, social media. Again, all guilty on it, not pointing fingers, but what if we leave our phones in our bag? So we don't look at our phones, difficult in a gym, but I feel like our focus and energy is that much more elevated with our training. And I feel that much better for it.
You said it, focus, effort, and energy. Focus, put the phone away, maximize the time you have for yourself. Appreciate you, Rob.
Love that, absolutely. Let's move on, finish off on some arms.
Let's do it.
Preacher curl, I'm sure you're familiar with this one.
Oh yeah.
It's a great little attachment from PowerTech. We've both used this before. Little preacher bench that kind of slots into the workbench. We can use it on the lever gym, we can use it on the multi-system, the multi-press, the freestanding bench. Transforms a bench into a really great kind of arm-focused isolation exercise. So continuing with our not overloading the machine, we've got 30 pounds on here. You know, one dumbbell at least that would lift. But hop on, give me 10, 12 reps and let me know how that feels. You got a great clear separation between the long head and the short head, which if you can do a few more reps. So you can see the long head kind of is this primary muscle here, right down from the elbow, kind of comes up to around the shoulder. The short head is kind of more this under muscle that you can really see if you curl up. Maybe 2 more reps here. This bulbous sort of thicker egg-shaped muscle that comes out here. That's the short head. So bi, meaning two-headed muscle. The preacher curl is one of the best for developing that short head. So if we're talking about thicker, fuller arms, the elbow really needs to be positioned and supported in front of the body. So to give an example, anyone, you know, when we're training a barbell curl, dumbbell curls, the arms are out the side, it's the long head primarily trained.
I see.
And people want that sort of short head, and you've got a great example of the short head too. If you flare it up there, this bulbous muscle here, that is primarily trained more so when we're on the likes of the preacher or doing a concentration curl. So, you know, when we look at bicep training, and people are like, oh, I only do 2 or 3 exercises. Sure, but just make sure that we're including a arms at the side exercise and an arm supported and isolated at the front. When we're doing a preacher curl, the lower region of the bicep, and of course we talked about you train the muscle in its entirety. You don't just train a portion of a muscle. It's kind of all or nothing principle. However, when we're in this preacher curl, the lower region down here, the sort of the thickness around where the insertion comes, you know, the origin and the insertion, this is where we can really kind of beef up that lower section of the bicep. So we talked about earlier about that full range of motion, allowing a weight that lets us open out the bicep. We've still got a strain, we're not fully opening and relaxing the arm there, but we're lengthening that bicep to its maximum length. And then because we're isolating and supporting, we get that full peak contraction there. The bicep is essentially taking the brunt of all of the weight without any of those other facilitator muscles, arms or shoulders to stabilize. So lighten the load, focus on the quality of the reps, use a preacher, bench, or even just, look, you haven't got one of those, dumbbell, same thing here. Just don't lengthen the arm fully, always keep some tension on that bicep, and then we're just taking it through a full range of motion.
I haven't done preacher curls in some time. Watching you explain the different heads and how to simulate them each, I think I'm gonna definitely be throwing preacher curls in my routine for sure.
I got plenty more for you. Elbow position too, if we got our wrist, elbow, and shoulder in line, that's gonna be the strongest position there. However, little tweaks that we can do, we kind of shift our elbows in, slightly, we kind of rotate our hand out, but in doing so, we're now really focusing on, you see that kind of the short head up at the top there?
Holy smokes. Look at that separation right there. Holy smokes, guys. Man.
And if we had a dumbbell, again, most people would just sort of follow that straight line momentum. Something I've been doing for a long time, just that little kind of rotation up at the top. And you can see here, I'm bringing my arm up, but look, watch what happens if I'm holding a dumbbell and I rotate out here, just a slight twitch, you see?
I see.
It kind of pulls it in there.
There you go.
So again, a lighter load, more so towards the end of the workout because we're not looking at huge volumes, but just having that elbow shifted in and having a very slight rotation.
Just even from that rotation, it just compacts the bicep a bit more, makes that contraction that much more precise.
I want to show you something. We got these off-center handle dumbbells here. Let me give you 15 pounds, nothing too heavy. Give that a go now with a dumbbell on the preacher curl. So what I want you to do is just at the top of the movement, just focus on rotating your wrist outwards slightly. I can see here all of those fibers that sort of essentially attach that muscle to its tendon. And you got such low body fat that you're like an anatomy chart. You can see all of the muscle heads, the origin, the insertion points.
That little tweak is an efficient tweak, for sure. I can feel about 15% more of that contraction.
Yeah, what's crazy in my mind, you look at someone like you and you go, oh, big, strong, and obviously you are, bodybuilder, but when you look at someone training a weight like this, it's like, is he really maximizing that muscle when he's doing that exercise? In my opinion, absolutely, because we're not, again, trying to lift the heaviest weight that we might be able to lift. We're simply maximizing the muscular work within those 10, 12 reps. How do you like that one?
Oh, definitely going to be thrown into my routine for sure. Guys, I strongly recommend you guys give this a go. And also, something to note is, if you look at the sheer size of the bicep, it's not a very large muscle in comparison to the rest of the it's not compared to the rest of the muscles on your body.
That's most people's legs.
So if you're training your biceps and the weight that you're using while training your biceps is substantially heavier than the rate you're using for your legs, for example, or your back, it might be an indication that, as Rob was mentioning, you might be using your ego or potentially training a little less efficiently by training so heavily, because the biceps aren't that big in comparison to the rest of the muscles on the body. So theoretically, they shouldn't be the strongest or even the largest muscle on your body.
All right, we talked about some cable training. I want to finish on this one, but switching it up a little bit. Here's something that you don't normally get to do in a commercial gym. I'm going to pop that handle out. I'm going to add a chain in. Do me a favor, just let's take off the 5 pound there. So now we can do a slight.
Wow. Nice, Rob. Rob is smuggling grapefruits in his arm right now.
I just thought of something. I'm sure people have asked you, hey, Ant, how often do you train your arms? And you might say, well, I might train arms singular as their own workout, and then I might throw them on at the end of a back workout or something. That's really what we've done here. Back and biceps, because biceps are involved in many of our back exercises. But if we're training our back first and foremost, so therefore we're utilizing the biggest muscle groups with the most amount of energy, we're not really then giving our biceps the best chance for growth because we've already used them. So yes, I agree in training the arms separately, but what about this? Separate the bicep head. So we're giving our short heads a focus when we're training back, i.e. supported, elbows in front of the body, preacher curl, concentration curl, high cable, kind of dual curl like that. Mm-hmm. So we're training our back and primarily our short head bicep. Yes, we're training the arm as one, but we're really focusing on the short head. And the next time we focus just on arms, we might first focus all on the long head muscle and then finish off on the short head. Or if you're one where maybe you're not training arms as a separate muscle group, you're just adding them on to the end of a chest or shoulder or back workout, then at least you've got a kind of a short head and a long head approach. Same can be said for triceps, even for legs. You know, we've got the hamstring, we've got the quads, different types of muscles.
Yeah. Great creative ways to separate your workout split to make sure you're training your body completely, not neglecting a muscle group, but also being efficient with your time, being efficient with your energy, and making sure that you're just enjoying the process in the complete way. Nice work.
Why don't you give that one a go and we'll finish the workout strong, and that's as good of any workout I've had in recent times.
Here we go. Ooh.
I think the tempo, the cadence that you're doing is absolutely spot on. We're not counting like a 2 and a 1 and a hold, but you're holding that contraction at the top just enough to eliminate any momentum. Therefore, we're not relying on momentum and use of this sort of over-exaggerated effort there. Enough weight where we're truly stressing the muscle. I mean, look, you're reaching failure close to that 10th, 11th rep. Like, this is how I think you optimally train a muscle, get the most out of it. And again, the true sense of the word bodybuilding, we are building our bodies by stressing the muscle with the right amount of weight, good form and technique in a safe and effective way without risking ourselves with these foolish weights.
Agreed, 100%. And especially with an exercise like this, it's easy to kind of pay attention to the two different parts of the contraction. So you have the stretch and you have the squeeze, and they both are equally important. So anytime I'm training any exercise, no matter what it is, I'm focusing on both of those components because they're equally important. One's not more important than the other. So in the stretch, I do so with intention, but in the squeeze, I do so with intention, but in the stretch, I also do so with intention. I must say, I gotta appreciate that tip. Twisting at the top is a big help. That's a party.
And it's been a good pleasure to have you down here.
Oh, man.
Not only has it reignited it's brought my passion back to the top for training. You know, we train day in, day out pretty much, you know, week after week. At times, I think it's fair to say it can become a bit stagnated. We kind of get lost in our own world. Yeah. Great to be able to connect with other like-minded people, get that kind of fire back in our bellies. I want to ask you, what are your kind of final few words of thoughts for everyone watching?
Well, first I want to obviously thank you for opening up this beautiful facility for me. allowing me to come in here and learn some things and get busy with you. But final words, guys, I've been doing this for some time. And the one thing I've learned, one of the major things I've learned is you really can't control everything in your life. You can't control the traffic, you can't control the weather. In most cases, you really can't control what people think about you. But you always can control your effort. And this place, either the gym or your home, if you've got some of this equipment, you can control your effort every day. On a good day, or a bad day, or a great day, you have control over your effort. This would be the best representation of that.
Couldn't say it better myself. Yeah, to summarize this video, take back your control, get back into the gym, fall in love with conditioning, training, strengthening, building your mind and body. Final thing, Ant, where can people find out more, follow you, get in contact with you?
Reach out to me anytime at all, night and day, at Ant Woods, ANT_WOODZ on Instagram. You can catch me there all the time. All my social links will be there as well.
Love it. We were talking off camera as well. We want to do this again, get some more workouts going, just get some conversation back and forth. Maybe we'll jump on a podcast and just the whole time we're just talking back and forth. Maybe even a live stream. So if you've got questions about whether it's muscle groups, we've got a kitchen over there. We can be talking about nutrition, supplementation, just everything that we've been doing over the past 20 years. Turn it back around, share it, pay it forwards, and continue this sort of growth of knowledge.
100% excited for it.
Let's do it. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Be back soon, and keep those comments coming so that we can keep answering those questions in future videos.
Oh, yeah.